Fight me, old man, or mop faster." The shout bounced off the lockers and the whole hallway went quiet, then loud. Caden Voss had both hands flat on Walter Grimes's chest, and he shoved. Walter's back hit the steel locker row with a bang that made a girl drop her books. Mop water sloshed across the tile. A designer gym bag sat on the floor between them. One corner darkened, where a single splash had touched it. "You got my bag wet," Caden said. He was grinning. He always grinned when the phones came up. $2,000. And the help splashed dirty mop water on it. "Say sorry. On your knees." Somebody laughed. Then a lot of people laughed. Phones lifted all down the corridor, little black rectangles catching the light, red dots blinking. Walter was 51 years old, gray at the temples, in a gray uniform shirt with Grimes stitched over the pocket. He did not say sorry. He did not get on his knees. He set his back foot half an inch behind the other, turned his hips a few degrees, and let his weight drop into the floor. He did not know he had done it. His body did it for him. Coach Denny Ortiz was walking past with a clipboard under his arm, and he stopped. Just stopped, mid-step. One shoe still lifted off the ground. He had spent 11 years in the Army before he ever blew a whistle at a college kid. And something in the way the old janitor stood made the hair on his neck stand up. Feet under shoulders, chin down, hands loose. A weight that could not be pushed and could not be surprised. Ortiz had seen exactly two kinds of men stand like that in his whole life, and neither of them mopped floors for a living. Caden shoved again. This time Walter moved with it, gave 2 inches, took them back. Nothing dramatic. His eyes flicked once, left, right, back, and clocked both ends of the hallway, the fire door, the stairwell, the way out, without his face changing at all. Then the sleeve of his work shirt slid up his right forearm, and for 1 second, the whole hallway could see it. A faded tattoo, black ink gone blue-gray with age, a spade with a small number under it. Ortiz saw it too. His mouth opened. Walter pulled the sleeve down. He bent, picked up the mop, and dipped it back in the bucket like nothing had happened. "That's what I thought," Caden said, and picked up his bag and wiped it with a paper towel like it was a wounded animal. "Mop faster, old man." Here is what nobody in that hallway knew. Walter Grimes served 16 years in the United States Army. The last 9 of them, he led a Delta Force assault team, a squadron team leader. The man who went first through the worst doors in the worst places on earth and brought his people back out. His resting heart rate right then, with a rich kid's spit still on his cheek and 6 phones filming him, was the heart rate of a man asleep in his own bed. He could have ended Caden Voss in less time than it takes to read this sentence. He kept his hands in his pockets instead, because 3 years ago he made a promise, and he had not broken it once, and he was not going to break it over a wet gym bag. You are going to see this exact scene again. Same shove, same shouted line, same grin. Not in a hallway, on a stage, in front of 600 people and a live camera. And it is not going to end with a mop. But before we continue, subscribe now and tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what time you saw this video. Tonight's story is one you will never forget. At night, the college was empty, and Walter had the whole place to himself. He liked it better that way. He would push the wide mop down halls that smelled of floor wax and old radiator heat, and the only sound was the wheels of his bucket and the buzz of the exit signs. Around 11, he always ended up at the trophy case by the athletics wing. He cleaned the glass every night, whether it needed it or not. There was a photo taped inside his wallet. He took it out sometimes and looked at it under the trophy case light. A woman with tired, kind eyes and a scarf tied over her hair, and a little girl on her lap, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. He touched the glass with one finger and put the wallet away. He had promised her two things at the end: that he would never raise his hands to another human being as long as he lived, and that their daughter would grow up never once seeing what her father used to be. 3 years he had kept both. He was not going to be the man who broke them over a boy. He wrung the mop and moved on. Down the hall, a pipe ticked as the heat came on, and his hand twitched once toward his hip before his mind caught up and told him it was a building, not a threat. Old wiring, that was all. He flexed the hand flat and kept walking. Caden Voss was 22 and had never in his life been told no by anyone who mattered. His amateur record was 6 wins, 0 losses, and he mentioned it the way other people mention the weather. His father, Lionel, had paid for the new mats, the new cage, the new lights, and a plaque by the gym door with the family name on it. So the coaches smiled when Caden skipped drills, and the dean shook Lionel's hand at every fundraiser. Caden filmed everything. His phone was always up, always red-dotted, always hunting for the next clip that would make strangers love him. The janitor made great content. That was all Walter Grimes was to him. A slow gray man who never fought back. Free views. 2 days after the locker shove, it was the cafeteria's turn. Walter was pushing a cart of stacked trays across the dining hall, threading between tables, quiet as always. Caden saw him coming. He nudged the boy next to him and lifted his phone. "Watch this," he said. "Watch." He stuck his foot out, casual, lazy, like he was just stretching, and hooked the front wheel. The cart went over. 200 plastic trays hit the floor in a wave. Gravy and mashed potatoes and green beans spraying across the tile, and the whole cafeteria turned to look. Whoa! Caden stood up on the bench so everyone could see him. He spread his arms wide. "Look at this, everybody. This is what a minimum wage life looks like, people. 30 years of this. Take a good look. This is your future if you skip class." He turned slowly, playing the room. "Look at him, everybody. 30 years of mopping, and this is the highlight of his life." The laughter came in a wave, cruel and young and loud. A cup rolled off the tipped cart and fell toward the tile. And without looking, without any hurry, Walter's left hand came off the cart handle and caught it in the air an inch from the floor and set it upright on the table. He did not seem to notice he had done it. Nobody in the laughing crowd noticed either. One person did. Coach Ortiz, standing by the coffee machine, went very still, his paper cup halfway to his mouth. He had watched a man catch a cup out of the air the way other men blink. Walter crouched down and started stacking trays back onto the cart, one at a time, his face flat, his hands steady. His forearm ached from the crouch, and the spade tattoo pressed against the cotton of his sleeve. Caden stepped back to soak up the crowd, and his heel came down in his own protein shake, the one that had tipped when he stood on the bench. His foot shot out from under him. He grabbed for the table, missed, and sat down hard. On the wet floor, one leg folded under, right in front of the football team's table. For one perfect second, nobody laughed at Walter at all. Then the football table lost it. Big guys, howling, pointing. Bro. One of them was filming now, phone aimed the other way for once. He slipped in his own shake. Somebody shouted, and it carried. And the whole cafeteria turned that laugh around and pointed it at the boy on the floor. Caden scrambled up, red to the ears, snatched his bag, and left. And his exit was not the one he wanted. Walter kept stacking trays. He did not smile. But when he pushed the cart out through the swinging doors, his pulse had not changed by a single beat. That night, 3 floors up, a coach sat at a computer, typing a name he could not stop thinking about, and got a screen that told him he did not have permission to see the file. He stared at it for a long time. Caden made the Janitor a series. He called it Janitor Cam. He would sneak the phone up whenever Walter was working, narrate in a fake whisper. And here we see the ancient mop wizard in his natural habitat, and post it that night to 50,000 followers who ate it up. 3 episodes in 2 days. The comments were a pile of laughing emojis, and worse. He captioned one peeve, "Your whole life is a bucket." It got 90,000 views by morning. He showed it to his teammates in the locker room, and they laughed on cue, because that was their job. Then, on the 3rd one, something turned. The clip caught Walter reaching up to change a light bulb, sleeve fallen back, the tattoo full in frame for a good 3 seconds. The spade, the number under it, dark against the pale skin. A new kind of comment started showing up under it. What? Quiet ones, serious ones. Where'd he serve? One said. Then an account with an eagle and a flag as its picture, 40,000 followers of its own. That's a spade with a squadron number under it, son. Do you know who you are filming? It got 2,000 likes in an hour, then 5,000. Then the replies started coming from accounts that did not use their real names and did not use laughing emojis. Take it down. You have no idea. Delete this, kid, for your own sake. Caden's phone started buzzing and would not stop. His DMs filled with messages he did not understand and did not like, requests he did not recognize. One that was just the spade emoji 3 times, from an account with no posts and a 5-figure follower count. Something about the video had gone wrong in a way he could not see, and it scared him precisely because he could not see it. He deleted the whole series at 2 in the morning, all 3 episodes, and lay in the dark not knowing why his skin was crawling. He did not connect it to the tattoo. He never once thought about the tattoo. That was the whole point of the tattoo. 2 days later, the whole thing almost showed itself anyway. It was crowded in the weight room after last period. Kids everywhere, music too loud. A sophomore was loading a bar he had no business loading, showing off for a girl, and he racked it wrong. one collar not seated, the plates sliding as he lifted it overhead. 200 pounds started to tip sideways toward a freshman doing curls with his back turned, headphones in, hearing none of it. There was maybe half a second before it came down on the kid's skull. Walter was 15 feet away emptying a trash can. He crossed the room before anyone else had registered the sound, one hand catching the bar's falling end, redirecting the weight down and away from the boy in a single controlled arc, setting it on the rubber floor with a heavy, flat thud instead of on a spine. Then he stepped back, picked his trash can back up, and kept walking. The freshman never even turned around. The sophomore stared, white-faced, not sure what had just not happened to him. "Clear the collar next time," Walter said over his shoulder. "Flat, already moving. Both sides. Every time." It was not a janitor's sentence. It was a sentence built out of 1,000 loud rooms where a small mistake got somebody hurt. Only one person in the weight room heard it as what it was. Coach Ortiz, in the doorway with a stopwatch around his neck, watching a 51-year-old man move faster than any athlete he coached, and then pretend he had not. Ortiz did not say anything. He wrote something down. Then he went and pulled another record he was not supposed to be able to pull. The next week, Caden found a smaller target. There was a freshman named Toby, skinny. 17 jokes a minute, the kind of kid who laughs to survive. Toby had laughed the loudest when Caden slipped in the protein shake. Caden did not forget things like that. He caught the boy alone in the gym after hours, put a pair of focus mitts on the kid's hands, and told him to hold them. "No gloves for you," Caden said. "Bear, man up. You thought it was funny when I went down? Hold the pads. We're gonna train." "I don't. I've got class in the—" "Hold the pads." He hit the mitts for 40 minutes, hard. Every punch drove the hard edge of the pad into Toby's bare forearms. "Keep them up," Caden said, every time the boy's guard dropped. "Keep them up. You want to laugh at fighters? Then take it like one." The boy's arms went pink, then red, then a deep, ugly purple from wrist to elbow, and his eyes filled up. And he did not put the pads down because he was 17 and terrified and did not know he was allowed to. Walter was in the far corner, replacing a floor mat. He saw all of it. His jaw was tight enough to crack a tooth. His hands were deep in his pockets, and they stayed there. He could have crossed that gym in 3 seconds and made it stop with a word and a look. He knew exactly which word. He knew exactly which look. He had used them on hard men in worse rooms than this, and every one of them had stopped. He stood there and used none of them, and he told himself it was the promise. And part of him knew that was a lie, and he stayed silent anyway. That is the part you are allowed to hold against him. Remember it. A boy's arms were turning purple, and the deadliest man in the building watched and did nothing and called it honor. When Caden finally got bored and left, Walter walked over, quiet and crouched by the freshman. He did not touch him. He just said, low, "Go to the nurse. Ice, 20 minutes on, 20 off, all night. Elevate the arm above your heart when you sleep. You did nothing wrong." Toby stared at him with wet eyes. "Why didn't you say something?" the boy whispered. "You're right there," You always see everything. Why don't you ever say anything?" And Walter had no answer that he could stand to say out loud. So he said, "Go to the nurse, son," and the boy ran. Walter picked up the mitts, set them on the rack, and went back to his mat, and hated himself in a way he had not felt in 3 years. Coach Ortiz saw the boy's arms the next morning in the training room. The bruises risen overnight into a map of purple. He did not say anything to Toby, but that afternoon he was on the phone in the parking lot with a man he had not spoken to in a decade. A man from his own army days who had gone on to places Ortiz never had, and he described a tattoo and a way of standing. And there was a long silence on the line. And then the man said one sentence, quietly, and Ortiz leaned against his car for a full minute after the call ended and did not move. Caden did not slow down. He sped up. The college was throwing its big spring event, the Combat Sports Showcase. Exhibition fights, demonstrations, sponsors in the front row, 600 seats in the main gym, a live stream for the students who could not get in. Lionel Voss wrote a check and then leaned on the dean until the dean agreed to make Caden the finale, the main event, the last name on the card. The dean tried, once, gently, to say no. The optics, Lionel. There's been some noise online, the freshmen's parents. I just think maybe this year. Lionel smiled the smile he used on cameras. Boys compete, Dean. That's all this is. Boys being boys. And one of them happens to be very, very good. He tapped the check on the desk. My son closes the show. We're agreed. It was not a question. The dean folded his hands and agreed. Caden started telling everyone he was going to bring a special guest on stage for his big moment. He would not say who. He just grinned when they asked. You'll see. It's gonna break the internet. A student journalist named Maya Lindqvist heard about the special guest and did not like the sound of it. She was 19, sharp, ran the campus news blog nobody read yet. She had seen the cafeteria clip. She had seen the deleted Janitor cam before it vanished, and she had saved it because she saved everything. She started asking around about the quiet man in the gray shirt. Who was Walter Grimes? Where did he come from? Why did a decorated coach stop walking in a hallway to stare at him? Why did a rich kid delete a video that was getting him views? She started a folder on her laptop and named it after him, and the folder started to fill. Here is what you think you know right now. You think Walter stays quiet because if he fights, he loses his job. You think it is the paycheck, the mop, the uniform. You think a man with a mortgage swallows his pride. You are wrong, and you are about to find out how wrong. It was almost midnight when Ortiz caught Walter at the trophy case. The coach did not say hello. He put a single sheet of paper on the glass, face up, under the light, a photograph printed on office paper, a team of men in a dusty compound, half a world away, faces hard, geared up, and in the center, younger, leaner, but unmistakable, Walter Grimes. Under the photo, a printed line, squadron, unit, and a string of words most Americans have never heard spoken out loud. Walter looked at it for a long time. He did not reach for it. He did not deny it. He just looked. Took me 4 days and an old friend who owes me his life. More or less, Ortiz said. His voice was rough. Most of your file I still cannot open. It is buried under things I do not have the clearance to see. Enough of it I can. I did 11 years, Walter. Motor pool, then support, then I got out, and I have been blowing a whistle at rich kids ever since. But I know what a squadron team leader looks like when he is sweeping a hallway. I have known since the day you set your feet against that locker and clocked both exits without moving your head. He tapped the paper. You went first through doors nobody else would open. 9 years of it. And you let a 22-year-old with a gym membership shove you into steel and call you the help. Walter was quiet. Then he pulled out his wallet and took out the photo. The woman with the scarf, the little girl laughing. He set it on the glass next to the printout, so both pictures caught the light together. The men in the dust, the wife and the daughter. His whole life. In 2 photographs on a trophy case at midnight. 3 years ago, he said. My wife was dying. It took 8 months. Near the end she was scared, and not for herself. She had spent our whole marriage waiting for a car to pull up out front with men in dress uniforms. She raised our daughter half the time, not knowing if I was alive, not knowing where I was, not allowed to know, and at the end she held my hand. She did not have much grip left, and she asked me for 2 things. He touched the corner of the little girl's face, that I would never raise my hands to a living soul again as long as I walked this earth, and that our daughter would grow up and never once see what her father used to be. Never see it in me, never have it be a thing she knew about her dad. He was quiet a second. I promised her both. I buried her on a Tuesday. I have kept both promises every single day since. That is why my hands stay in my pockets. Not the job. I could lose the job tomorrow and not blink. The promise. He was quiet a second, then he said the rest. Because Ortiz had earned it. My daughter is 19 now. She is 2 states away at nursing school. She knows her father was a soldier, and she knows he came home, and she does not know one single thing past that, and that is exactly how her mother wanted it, and exactly how I have kept it. She calls me on Sundays. She thinks her dad is a quiet man who cleans a college and misses her mom. She is right. That is who I have made myself into, on purpose, brick by brick, for 3 years. He tapped the printout with the men in the dust. The man in this picture, she has never met him. She never will. That was the deal. Ortiz was quiet a long moment. Then he said the thing that landed like a slap in the empty hallway. That is a beautiful promise, Walter, and I am going to tell you the truth. Because I think nobody else will, and I think you have been waiting for somebody too. He leaned in. That promise is protecting you. It is not protecting those kids. You watched him purple a 17-year-old's arms until the boy cried, and you hid behind a dead woman's wish, and you called it honor. She asked you not to become a monster. His voice dropped low and hard. She did not ask you to stand still while one hurts children in front of you. There is a difference between a man who will not throw the first punch and a man who will not lift a finger while a kid bleeds. You have been letting yourself believe they are the same thing. They are not. Walter did not answer. His hands were in his pockets, but something in his face, had changed, cracked, opened, and Ortiz saw it. And Ortiz picked up his clipboard and left the printout where it lay and walked away and left the two photographs side by side on the glass. Walter stood there until almost 1 in the morning. Then he put both pictures back in his wallet and he finished his rounds. He did not sleep that night. Not because he was afraid of fighting. He had never once in his life been afraid of that. Because he was afraid of what it would cost him. The one clean thing he had left. The promise he had bled to keep for 3 years. The version of himself his daughter had never had to be ashamed of. He lay awake and turned it over and over, and no matter how he turned it, Ortiz's sentence was still there in the dark, and it was still true. The showcase was 6 days away. Toby's parents filed a complaint. It was a good complaint, detailed, with photographs of their son's arms taken over 4 days, as the bruises turned from purple to green to yellow. It went to the dean's office on a Monday. By Wednesday it was gone, withdrawn, marked resolved, no action taken. Lionel Voss had made a facilities gift to the athletics department that same week, and the number on the check had a lot of zeros. The complaint simply evaporated, the way things evaporate when the right check lands on the right desk. But Maya Lindqvist had a friend who worked the front desk, and Maya had a photograph of the complaint before it vanished. And Maya had the deposit record of Lionel's check, dated 2 days after it disappeared. She put both in her folder. Her hands were shaking a little when she saved the file, and not from fear. She was starting to understand that her phone and her folder were about to matter more than anything she had ever done. She wrote one line in her notes: "The money makes things disappear." Unless someone is watching then, she kept watching. At open sparring on Thursday, a visiting wrestler came through, a heavy-set kid from a community program 2 towns over. In cheap gear, the kind of guy Caden would not bother learning the name of. Caden was mid-cage, playing to a phone somebody was holding, talking over his shoulder. "See, this is footwork. This is what none of you have." The wrestler shot in low while Caden was still performing, scooped both legs, and put him on his back so fast the mat boomed. Caden bounced up furious, reset, went back to mugging for the camera. Lucky that was Lucky watched this, and got taken down again harder. A second time in 90 seconds, driven flat with the wind knocked out of him. "Run it back," Caden spat up on his feet, chest heaving. "Come on, run it back, right now." The wrestler shrugged, cheap gear and calm eyes, and set his feet. He did not run his mouth. He did not need to. He shot a 3rd time, clean. And Caden sprawled wrong and got turned and ended up on his side against the cage. And this time, even the guy filming lowered his phone, because it was starting to feel less like a highlight and more like a beating. The gym went quiet. Then, from the corner, a sound Caden had never heard aimed at him. His own teammates, laughing, just one at first, a snort somebody could not hold in, then 2, then the whole bench. The guys who followed him around and carried his water and laughed at his videos on command. Laughing at him, for real. Caden's face did something ugly. "Shut up," he said. "Shut up," which only made it worse. He grabbed his holy gym bag and walked out and slammed the door hard enough to rattle it in the frame. And behind him, the laughter got louder, not softer. The athletics office noticed all of it. The bruised freshman, the buzzing about the tattoo, the clip of Caden on his back that was already making rounds. 2 days before the showcase, an administrator quietly decided that Caden Voss would not wear the captain's armband for the big event for optics. Nobody wanted the sponsors seeing the armband on the kid the whole internet was starting to whisper about. They told him through an intern, a 20-year-old work-study girl with a clipboard sent to deliver the message because nobody else wanted to. Caden screamed at her in the middle of the athletics lobby, in front of everyone. "Do you know who my father is? Do you? You do not get to take that from me. You nobody. You get nothing. You." Until she cried and walked away shaking, and 3 more phones came up around the lobby, and 3 more clips went out into the world. And the story of Caden Voss kept writing itself in a direction he could not control and could not stop. He decided the showcase would fix everything. He decided his special guest would put him back on top of the world. He was right that the showcase would be remembered forever. He was wrong about every other part. The night before, Maya found Coach Ortiz in the empty gym, stacking chairs. She had her folder open on her phone. She was 19, and her voice shook a little, but she asked anyway. "You know something about the janitor," she said. "You stopped in the hallway. You've been pulling records. I've been watching you almost as long as I've been watching him." She held up the phone. "I have the freshman's arms. I have the complaint that got buried. I have the check. I have the deposit 2 days later. I have all of it. And I'm publishing it. And I wanted to ask you one thing first, on or off the record, your call. Is Walter Grimes who I think he is?" Ortiz set down a chair. He looked at her a long moment. This kid with a phone and a folder and no fear. "Off the record," he said. "Print the money and the freshman and the cover-up. That's real, that's yours, that's clean, and it'll stick." He picked up another chair. "Don't print what Walter is. That's his to tell or not tell, and he'll never tell it, and it's not the story anyway. The story is a school that took a check to make a bruised kid disappear." He almost smiled, tired. "You've got everything you need already. Have it ready to go by tomorrow night. I've got a feeling tomorrow's going to give you your last paragraph." Maya looked at him. "You know something's going to happen tomorrow." "I know that boy can't help himself," Ortiz said. "And I know that man has run out of reasons to keep his hands in his pockets." He stacked the last chair. "Charge your phone, kid, all the way." The morning of the showcase, Walter mopped the main gym before dawn, the way he always did, moving between the rows of folding chairs they had set out overnight. 600 of them. He looked at the empty stage they had built, at one end the lights hanging over it, dark. He knew what Caden's special guest was. He had known for 2 days. He stood in the empty gym with his mop, and he thought about his wife, and his daughter, and Ortiz's sentence, and the boy's purple arms. And he made a decision he did not say out loud to anyone. Then he finished mopping and clocked out and went home to change into a clean gray shirt. Because if it was going to happen, he would be clean for it. Maya charged her phone to 100% and cleared the memory and sat in the fourth row 2 hours early to get the angle she wanted. Ortiz stood near the wings with his arms crossed and did not smile at anyone all night. And Lionel Voss took his seat down front at the sponsor table, between two men in polo shirts whose company put its logo on his son's shorts, and he smiled at the cameras, because that was the only thing he knew how to do. The main gym filled up by 7. Every chair taken, students standing 3 deep along the back wall. Bright lights over the raised platform. Banners for the sponsors. The live stream camera on its tripod down the side, its little screen glowing. The view count already past 1,000. And climbing before the show even started. The exhibition fights ran. The demonstrations ran. Then the lights came down and back up, and the announcer said the name everyone had paid to see. And Caden Voss walked out to his own entrance music with his hood up and his arms wide. He took the microphone off the stand. He was not supposed to. Nobody stopped him. "You have all been asking about my special guest," he said, and the grin was back, huge now, lit up under the lights. "Tonight, I want to show you all something. I want to show you the difference between a champion and a nobody. Between somebody who is going somewhere." He thumped his own chest, "and somebody who is going nowhere." He turned to the wings. "Bring him out." 2 security guys walked Walter Grimes onto the stage. They had made him carry his mop. Somebody's idea of a joke. The gray uniform. The yellow bucket on its little wheels rolled out onto the bright stage in front of 600 people. The crowd did not know what it was yet. A murmur. A few uncertain laughs. The live stream count jumped 1,000 in 10 seconds as students texted their friends to watch. Caden circled him, playing to the room, milking it, and then he leaned in close to the janitor's ear and lifted the mic so the whole gym could hear, and he said it, louder than the hallway. Twice as loud. The exact words, "Fight me, old man," or "Mop faster." The cold open, back again. Bigger. On a stage. Lived to the whole school. The gym roared. 600 people thinking it was a bit, thinking the old man would shuffle his feet and everyone would laugh and go home. Walter stood there in the lights with the mop in one hand and the bright empty stage around him and 600 faces below him. His pulse was the pulse of a sleeping man. He set the mop against the yellow bucket, slow, careful, deliberate, like he was putting down something that mattered, something he might not pick back up as the same man. He looked at Caden, and he spoke, quietly, but the mic caught it and carried it to every seat in the room. "Put the mic down, son. I'm asking you once." The crowd oohed at the sound of the old man's voice, steady and low and completely unafraid. Caden's grin cracked into something meaner. He had wanted a shuffle, not a sentence. "You are asking me?" He shoved the mic at a security guard, rolled his shoulders, bounced up on his toes. The 6-0 amateur prodigy. And the room understood a half second, before it happened, that this was real, that the old man was not going to shuffle, that something was about to go very wrong. Maya's phone was already up and steady. The live stream hit 5,000. Caden set his feet and threw a right hand at Walter's head with everything he had, full power, no warning. A punch that had ended 6 other men's nights. Here is what the punch hit. Nothing. Walter's head moved 2 inches, just 2. The fist went past his ear into empty air, and Walter's weight was already dropping, already turning, his center sinking below the boy's, and his hand found Caden's wrist the way a key finds a lock. There was no wind-up. There was no strike thrown back. Caden's own force, his own momentum. The 200 pounds he had put behind that punch folded him forward over a base that was no longer under him, and Walter guided it, a step, a turn. A small drop of the hips, using the boy's own speed against him. Caden Voss went face down onto the stage boards, with his arm bent up behind his back, in a lock. One of Walter's knees settling light across his shoulders, before the crowd had even finished sucking in its breath. Dead silence in 600 chairs. Then it broke. A wave of noise, gasps. A man 3 rows back on his feet with both hands pressed to the top of his head. A woman's voice saying, "Oh my God, into the ringing quiet. A boy near the front just repeating, "No, no, no way." Somebody's phone slipped out of their hands and clattered on the floor, and nobody bent to get it. Every other phone in the room came up at once. A wall of little glowing screens. The live stream count did not climb now. It leapt, doubling, tripling, as the clip went out in real time, and people started screaming at their friends to open the link. Lionel Voss was half out of his chair. One hand flat on the sponsor table, mouth open, and neither of the 2 men in polo shirts beside him was looking at him anymore. One of them had his own phone out. He was already typing. On the stage, Caden thrashed once, hard, a trained fighter's instinct to explode out of a bad position. The lock tightened a fraction. No more than a fraction, just enough. And every bit of leverage the boy had learned in 6 years told his own body to stop. And he stopped. Because the alternative was worse, and some deep animal part of him knew it. He was pinned by a 51-year-old janitor, and he could not move 1 single inch, and his cheek was pressed to the boards, and he was breathing fast and ragged and shallow. Above him, Walter's breathing had not changed at all. His pulse was still the pulse of a sleeping man. In the front row, a boy who had laughed at every janitor cam video sat frozen with his phone still filming, his mouth open, no sound coming out. 2 rows behind him, a girl grabbed her friend's arm, hard enough to leave a mark. Somebody stood on a chair to see better, and somebody else pulled them back down. A man near the aisle said, to no one, "That's not amateur. That's not amateur. That's," and could not finish the sentence. Toby was standing along the back wall, and his hands had come up over his mouth, and his eyes were shining. And he was nodding, like a thing he had needed to be true. For 3 weeks had finally, in front of everyone, become true. At the sponsor table, one of the men in polo shirts leaned to the other and said something short, and the second man nodded. Once, grimly. And neither of them looked at Lionel Voss, who was still half out of his chair, with his hand flat on the table, and his mouth open, and no words in it. On the live stream, the comment feed had become a single scrolling scream, too fast to read, the same 3 words over and over in 100 spellings. The count crossed 20,000, while the boy was still pinned to the boards. Coach Ortiz stood up in the third row. He did not shout. He did not have to. In the ringing silence, his voice went to every corner of that gym, flat and certain and carrying. That man led a Delta Force assault team. He let it land. 600 people heard it. 9 years. Went first through every door so his people would not have to. He looked down at the boy pinned to the stage, and his voice dropped, almost gentle now, almost sad. "Sit down, son, you're done." The room detonated. But Walter was not finished, and neither are we. The security guard was still holding the microphone, frozen, staring. Walter looked at him and put out his free hand, calm, palm up, and the man gave the mic, over without thinking, the way people hand things to a person who is clearly, unmistakably in charge of the room. Walter brought it down close, his pulse steady, his voice quiet, and he did the one thing that turned the whole night from a fight into a reckoning. He handed the boy his own words back, every one of them, word for word, into the hot mic, on the live stream, in front of 600 people, and Caden's father, and the men who paid him, and the whole internet arriving by the second. "Fight me, old man," Walter said quietly, reading it back off his memory like off a printed page. "Or mop faster." He let it sit in the silence. Caden's breathing was the only sound. "That is what you said, twice now. Once by the lockers 3 weeks ago. Once tonight, just now. Into this microphone, to 600 people." Another pause. He was not cruel about it. That was what made it unbearable to hear. "This is what a minimum wage life looks like, people." He said it flat, all the venom drained out of it, and drained of Caden's cruelty it somehow landed 10 times harder. "You said that too, in the cafeteria, standing on a bench, while I picked your lunch up off the floor with my hands. A beat. 30 years of mopping, and this is the highlight of his life. You said that one about me, to a room full of kids." He looked out at the crowd, not down at the boy. "You called me the help. From the first day, you called a lot of people the help. That girl with the clipboard. That freshman whose arms you turned purple because he laughed. Everyone who could not write your father a check." Caden tapped the stage. Twice. Hard. The universal word for enough. "Please stop." Walter let him go the instant the second tap landed. Not a half second after. Not one boot. Not one last shove. Not one word thrown down at a beaten man. He simply lifted his knee, released the wrist, and rose off the boy clean, and stepped back, and put his hands where they belonged. One holding the mic, one open and empty at his side. The whole gym watched a man who could have done anything choose to do nothing more. Caden climbed to his feet on his own. His arm hung awkward at his side. Sore but whole, his face was wet. Not blood. There was no blood. Walter had not marked him anywhere, and that was somehow the worst part of all. 6 wins, 0 losses, and not one scratch on him, and every single person in that room understood exactly what that meant. That the old man had never once tried to hurt him. That the old man had held an entire ocean back behind a dam the whole time, the whole 3 weeks, the whole fight, and had let out only exactly as much as it took to lay the boy down soft and let him up whole. Walter leaned to the mic one last time, and his voice was almost gentle. "You wanted the old man's best," he said. "That was me holding back." He set the microphone down on the stage boards. He picked up his mop. He picked up his yellow bucket by the handle. And he walked off that stage the same way he had walked onto it. Slow, unhurried, saving his energy. A man with a long night of work still ahead of him, while 600 people came up out of their folding chairs at once, and the sound they made hit the ceiling and stayed there. By morning, the clip had passed 2 million views. It kept climbing all day. The veterans' accounts found it first and pushed it hard. And then it jumped the fence into everything. Every feed, every group chat, every morning show scroll. The 1-second flip, played and replayed and slowed down, frame by frame, the punch sailing into empty air, the wrist caught, the hips dropping, the calm. Ortiz's line ran as a caption under 10,000 reposts. That man led a Delta Force assault team. Sit down, son. And under those, the other clip, the one that finished him. The old man's steady voice handing the boy his own words back, one cruelty at a time. Into a microphone Caden had grabbed to make himself a legend. Caden's amateur sponsor put out a statement before lunch. 3 sentences, cold and corporate, ending the relationship, effective immediately, and unequivocally condemning any conduct that demeans staff, students, or service members. The logo came off his shorts by that afternoon. The men in the polo shirts did not return his father's calls. Maya Lindqvist published at 9 in the morning. She had all of it. The freshman's bruised arms in 4 photographs across 4 days, the withdrawn complaint, the deposit record of Lionel's check, dated 2 days later, the whole timeline laid out clean and dated and undeniable. She cornered the dean outside his own office with a recorder held up and a printed copy of her article in her other hand. And she asked him one question on the record. Did the Voss family donation have anything to do with the freshman's complaint disappearing from your office? The dean opened his mouth and did not have an answer that would survive being printed. And Maya printed his silence too. By the end of that week, the college returned Lionel Voss's donation on the record, in a written statement, and reopened Toby's complaint. And this time, there was no check on earth that could make it vanish, because the whole state was watching the folder now. Lionel Voss stopped smiling at cameras. There was nothing left in front of a camera to smile about. And Caden, 6 wins, 0 losses. And now the owner of the most famous loss in the state walked around a campus where every single person had seen it, where the freshmen he had terrorized met each other's eyes and stood a little straighter when he passed, where the teammates who used to carry his water and laugh at his videos on command did not look up from their phones. His holy gym bag sat in a closet at home, untouched. The thing he had spent every waking day building, the name, the following, the fear, the shine, was simply gone, and he had handed it to himself on a stage, into a microphone, in front of every last person he most wanted to impress. Walter's phone rang Sunday night, 1 day early. It was never 1 day early. He knew before he answered what it meant, that 2 million views did not stay 2 states away, that a nursing student's roommate had shown her a clip and said, "Hey, is that your dad?" He sat down on the edge of his bed and picked up, "Dad." Her voice was careful. "Somebody sent me a video." He closed his eyes. Here was the bill for the broken promise, arriving right on time. "I know, sweetheart." There was a long quiet on the line. Then she said, "You caught his arm and put him down and you let him back up. That's all you did. You didn't even look mad." Another pause. "The guy was hurting people." That's what the comments say. A kid's arms. And you asked him to stop first. Everybody heard you ask him to stop. Her voice did something then, went thick. "Mom told me once you were somebody important before." She never said what. I always figured it was the kind of important I wouldn't want to know. A breath. "That's not what I saw, Dad. I saw you help a mean boy up off the floor and walk away and get your mop. That's the whole thing I saw." Walter did not trust his own voice for a second. When it came, it was rough. That's the whole thing there was to see. "Okay," she said softly. "Then I'm not mad, and I'm not scared, and I don't need to know the rest." A pause. "I'm proud of you, actually. Is that weird?" "No," he managed. "That's not weird." He kept the promise. She never saw what her father used to be. She only ever saw what he had made himself into, and that, it turned out, was enough. He said goodnight. He sat in the dark a long time. Not sad, just full. Monday, 6 in the morning. The halls were empty and quiet, and smelled of floor wax and old radiator heat. Walter Grimes pushed his wide mop down the corridor by the lockers, the same lockers, and the only sound was the wheels of his bucket and the buzz of the exit signs. He did not walk taller than he had the week before. He did not walk any way at all, except like a man saving his energy for a long shift and a longer life. Students started to trickle in around 7. A few of them saw him. One boy slowed down, met his eyes, and gave him a small nod. Respect, quiet. No phone this time. No laughing. Walter nodded back. Nothing more. A girl said, "Morning, Mr. Grimes." And he said, "Morning," and kept mopping. That was all any of them got from him. And it was all any of them needed. Toby passed by, with the bruises long gone from his arms, and stopped like he wanted to say something enormous, like he had rehearsed it. Walter looked up and said, "Go on, you'll be late." And the kid grinned and went, and something in the boy stood up straighter than it had stood in weeks, maybe in years. After his shift, Walter drove to the cemetery on the edge of town. He crouched down by a stone with a name and 2 dates and a small carved spade in the corner. Because she had wanted that at the end, she had said, "Keep the spade. That part was always good. That part was you." He took off his cap. He was quiet for a while, the way he was quiet everywhere. Then he talked to her, low, the way he always did, like she was sitting right there beside him in the grass. "I kept it as long as any man could," he said. 3 years. I kept my hands down through a whole lot more than you would have believed. Then there was a boy hurting kids right in front of me. And a good man told me my promise had turned into a place to hide, that it was keeping me safe and nobody else. And he was right, and you would have told me the same thing, and I think you would have told me sooner. He turned the cap slowly in his hands. So I laid one boy on the ground. That is all. I did not hurt him. I did not mark him anywhere. I let him up the second he tapped, and I put my hands back in my pockets, and I walked off and got my mop. He was quiet a moment. Our girl will never have to see anything worse than a tired man being helped up off a floor and a tired man walking away. That is the whole of it. I kept the part that mattered. He looked at the small carved spade. I think you would have been proud of the walking away. I am at peace with the night it ended. I hope you are too, wherever you are watching from. He put his cap back on. He touched the top of the stone once, the same soft way he touched the trophy case glass every night. Then he stood up and he went home. Because there was another shift in the morning and the halls did not mop themselves, the strongest man in any room is almost always the one with the least to prove. Real strength does not shout, does not film, does not shove a smaller man into a locker for views. It waits, quiet as a sleeping heart. And it only stands up when standing up is the last decent thing left to do. And, even then, it does no more than it must, and it walks away the moment it can. But here is the harder question, and it is the one Walter is still asking himself by that gravestone. And it is the one we are asking you. Walter stayed silent through weeks of cruelty because of a promise to his dying wife. Was keeping that promise honorable? Or did his silence make him partly responsible for what Caden did to others? Tell us below. A boy turned another boy's arms purple, while the deadliest man in the building watched with his hands in his pockets and called it a promise. That same man put a cruel prodigy face down, without leaving one mark, handed him his own words back, one at a time into a live microphone, and let him up the instant he tapped. And the loudest voice in that entire gym was silenced forever by the quietest one in it. Not with a fist, but with a whisper, and with the boy's own cruelty read gently back to him, in front of every single person he had ever wanted to impress. If this story hit you, subscribe now, share it with someone who respects quiet strength, and tell us in the comments which moment hit you the hardest. We will see you for the next story. It is already waiting.